And what you want to do is sit down, especially if you already have a business or this is something that you've coached people on before or that friends have asked you like, oh, how do you do that? Think about what are the 5 questions you get asked all the time. Or if you can write 10, write down 10. Whether that's you have a receptionist who takes those calls at your office, ask him or her what the questions are that come in, or whether it's you that get asked, just think about what are the 5 questions that get asked most often, and then write down what are 5 questions that you wish people would ask you, that they should ask you if they want to know more about whatever this topic is. And right there, every one of those questions is at least an episode each, because really every episode or every blog post or every video you create should just go on one main topic, one main point. It doesn't need to be that long. It doesn't need to be that complicated. In fact, it's better if it's not. Also, you can always go and see, well, what's been popular on other people's sites. Or you can repurpose stuff that you've already made. Maybe if you've got a business, there's articles you've written or presentations that you've done, and you can take a 1-hour seminar presentation and retool that and make it 3 episodes on your podcast. And also don't be afraid to repeat information over time in different ways, because people will come and go in your audience. People will forget things. Sometimes they need to be reminded. They like to hear them more than once. And if you just kind of present them in different ways. So all that right there, are some of the things that help us to constantly come up with new content. What else would you have to add to that, Sterling?
Well, one more thing on the borrow side of things. You can go to a competitor or even, just somebody that's top of the field at that time and just take their the title of one of their blog posts. Don't even look at what they wrote. Take the title and write your own based on that title. Right. That's something that's very helpful. And it's funny because sometimes in the old Google alerts, I set up things and find out what other people are writing about certain subjects. And a lot of times they're very similar to ours, strangely enough. And so the borrowing goes on everywhere. So don't feel, I wouldn't write the same article, but if they say the 5 ways to knit a hat in 30 minutes, I'm sure you would have a completely different way. I know I do. I love it when you talk about my hobbies specifically, but when knitting a hat, you can, you'll just say the ways that you do it. Now, it might be similar, but it'll be the way you say it and, in the way that you want to, give it out to your audience. So that's just one way, just looking at the title of somebody else's blog post, and you can even rework the title a little bit when you do yours, but just starting with that will trigger you if you know how to, if you know the market you're in, it's a snap to be able to do just that. And it actually reminds me really quickly that in the Academy, what we should probably do, you're talking about sometimes just the little things you do every day. We should each do videos of a day in the life of what we do in internet business, so people can actually see, okay, the first hour, this is how we prioritize things. You know what I mean? That would make a great a video.
That's an excellent point. All right, so next one, very common question or concern that comes in, and it takes different forms, but it might sound like, well, I don't like my voice, or I don't like how I look on video, or I hate to write. And definitely things that we can relate to. I right now, after we've been doing this several years, everyone probably thinks, well, yeah, it's so easy for you guys. Well, we've been doing it a while. And, before we started podcasting, I was in bands and would record, and so I had to get used to producing content, so to speak, hearing my voice on a recording. And, it's that weird thing where you hear your voice recorded back and it sounds different than it actually does to yourself, because we hear ourselves differently. But the first thing I'd say about this is that first of all, pick the medium that works for you. And that's why it's cool. Maybe you are good at writing. You hate how your voice sounds. You don't want to have to do video just because you're very private or whatever the case may be, but maybe writing comes to you easily. So stick with that. So just pick the medium that works for you and works for your audience and works for the topic matter that you're going for. It doesn't have to be audio and video and writing. It's ideal if you do, but just start with the one that feels the most comfortable to you. Also, remember, people are going to connect with your personality more than if you have perfect grammar or perfect college essays that you write. In fact, when it comes to blogging, it's a lot better just to be conversational, just to picture as if you're sitting in a coffee house and a friend is saying, hey, tell me about how that hat that you knit, how do you do that? Just imagine you're having a casual conversation, whether you're recording an audio, whether you're writing, or whether you're doing a video. That's what we always try to picture that when we're creating our content. It's not like you have to be the professionally produced Tyra Banks with a makeup artist and everything's all perfectly scripted out. I think we've been trained on how radio and TV should sound. But the truth of the matter is that you don't have to do that for this to be effective on the internet. And often it's better if you don't, if you're more like, hey, we're just like you. That's how we started out, and it worked great for us. And I've seen all kinds of people doing really well, all kinds of people with different kinds of voices, with different kinds of looks, and with different kinds of hobbies and passions and different media that they're using do really well with this. So there is a place for you, and it is the fact of you being you and you just having your personality that people are going to connect with. You know, some people are going to prefer to learn knitting from you versus someone else just because you are who you are, you have the values that you have, you tell the stories that you tell, and you have your way of teaching. And some people are just going to connect with that more than with others, and so they'll gravitate towards you.
Yeah, there's a video show that has gotten tons of attention about wine that the particular host grates on me like no tomorrow. And the great thing about it is I can not watch it, and he still has tons of people. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter if somebody doesn't like your voice or doesn't like how you look or doesn't like your style. Right. There's plenty of people that always will. And one of the things I was going to mention actually was that I've actually been told professionally that I don't have a good radio or voiceover voice. Back when I did the whole,
really?
Yeah, when I did the whole Hollywood thing, sometimes when I would edit pieces that I was doing, I would have to record the voiceover. So I would take the script just so that there's voice there until we get the professional guy to come in. And twice on two different projects that the producers didn't even know each other or anything, or know that I'd done it before, they told me not to do the voiceover, to have someone else do it. Because it was.
And now look at you, making all this money on podcasting. You showed them.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's the thing. It's funny because when we first talked about, doing a podcast, literally that was something that came to my mind. Is I've been told that my voice is completely annoying. Now, I was trying to read somebody else's script, so maybe that was part of it. I was trying to be, instead of just doing my voice like it is now, I was going, and then he walked in. Like, I probably was doing some sort of like fake, I don't know. But anyway, so I'm just trying to make the point that, I've even been told that by professionals that I shouldn't speak on radio or on a podcast. And that didn't stop me ever. The other thing is, you were talking about pick the medium that works for you. And that's the thing. You can, if you end up doing the audio and that's the one you can be most comfortable with, even if you're like, oh, I don't like to do any of them, or I feel self-conscious about it. Again, one of the ones that's easiest, I guess, for me is doing the audio, then having that audio transcribed. So then that can become a blog post. You can just work with something you've already spoken, just turn that into a blog post. You could also take that audio and put pictures over it as you're speaking, pictures that relate to whatever you're talking about, and then you could have a video. I mean, there's lots of ways to figure out how to do this, even if you don't want to be seen, or you don't want to have to actually sit there and type out a blog, or vice versa. I mean, I have somebody that I'm helping here in Salt Lake with a new podcast, and he loves to write, but he doesn't want to just do this, sit there and chit chat about it. And so we've got him. He reads the articles and blog posts that he wrote, and then that's easy for him. He can just read that, and that's his podcast. So there's just so many ways to do this that you never have to be stuck on this particular point.
Absolutely, good stuff. All right, let's move on to the next question. Some people are saying, well, doesn't it cost a lot of money to make media all the time? And we kind of talked about this in the last episode, because that was one of, we had our 8 criteria of the ideal traffic attraction strategy. And one of them was that you could get started without much money. And then you can progress beyond that if you want. And even at the level of video, which video should be the most, and it is, a little more complicated than audio, but you'd think, well, video, it's going to be super expensive. I got to go get this camcorder, and I got to have a nice video editing suite and this and that and the other. Even on video, you can get started for about $100-$150. You can go get one of these flip cameras. Tons of people making their YouTube videos with a little flip camera that's super easy to use. You just flip the thing on, talk into it, plug it into your thing through USB, and it says, upload this to YouTube, and you go, yep, and it's done.